Luanda, great to see you since we did onboarding a couple months ago. Would love to hear your name, where you live. I know you're here in Miami with me, but you can let everyone know. Specialty and role, and then we'll go from there.
Hi, Debbie. I'm Luanda Grisette. I'm an advanced heart failure and transplant cardiologist here in Miami. Um, I came to coaching um, as a result of developing pretty severe burnout
Yeah,
in the setting of a work situation that had um, expanded beyond sort of humane dimensions probably a year before I came to coaching. And I came to coaching in part because I
yeah,
was disentangling myself from that situation and needed some help and guidance.
yeah,
I would say that coaching over the last couple of months has been really important. It honestly feels like it's been going on longer than that because it was actually a lifeline.
wow.
Um, I found myself being um, really um, so mentally exhausted
Mm,
um, at the end of a really stressful period that I really had a hard time with decision making regarding my career
yeah,
and was contemplating whether or not it was the right time for me to just do early retirement, which when I look back is both emblematic of how physically and mentally devastated I was, but it's also really ridiculous
mm,
because sort of as a physician, I'm really, really nowhere near the phase where otherwise I would have been thinking about retirement. Um,
yeah,
so coaching has been extraordinarily helpful for me because it helped me to basically clarify for myself what are the things that are important to me, what are the things that are important to me both in my career and in my life,
yeah,
and help me to prioritize those things and actually help me to um, both see from a distance and then see really up close what was happening and um, what I could do to change things.
right, right. Um, let's rewind a little bit. When you talk about that burnout and you use the word, devastating and even thinking about leaving medicine early, what did that feel like on a day-to-day basis, and what did that keep you from doing, in your career and in your life?
Um, so on a day-to-day basis, um, I sort of came to burnout because I had a pretty insurmountable clinical burden that I um, was, sort of shouldering alone. And on a day-to-day basis, what that led to was the fact that I was um, frequently, like on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, just direly fearful
Mm,
that I was going to make some error of omission or commission um, that would hurt a patient just because there was too much coming at me too quickly from too many different directions. On what that meant for me as a person is that my typical day, not my call week, not some extraordinary week where some colleague is on leave and you're covering, but my typical day was to um, arrive at 7:30, 8 o'clock, um, and then see. patients all the way through in the hospital, in the clinic, um, usually without benefit of a lunch break,
Mm.
and spend, sort of whatever time I got home, which would be, let's say, 7 o'clock, because clinic frequently wouldn't wrap up until 6:30. So 7:30, 8 o'clock, eat something quickly, and then try to get to my inbox and finishing
Wow.
documentation, um, and then go to bed and wake up and do it again. Um,
Yep. I thought that's what you were going to say at 7:30. I forgot about the inbox and the charts after all that.
yeah, no, it was non-ending. It was really non-ending, and um, oh, I'm having flashbacks just thinking about it, to be
Wow.
honest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's where we were. And then it sounds like you reached a point where you wanted some support or you wanted to make a change or you were curious at least. How did you find us? What were your thoughts going into the process? And what kind of, did you have any doubts and fears and what led you to make the decision to get some help in spite of them?
Well, so I will say that, um, when I was burnt out, I was also actually pretty much in denial about the fact that that is what was happening.
Mm.
I knew that I was on, uh, sort of a roller coaster that was going way too fast, and I couldn't keep up. And after sort of doing what I could, or what, the things that I knew that I could do, the levers that I knew to pull in my current situation, I had decided that I was going to leave, and I was in the process of looking for another job.
Hmm.
I actually got an invitation to um, interview for a job that, I really, really am extraordinarily interested in, sort of something I think I described to you as would be my dream job.
Yeah.
And that's actually how I came to coaching. It's like, oh my gosh, I have a chance to do this. Um, and I'd already interviewed for some things that were really interesting, but this one was it. It's like, well, and I knew that friends of mine who were in that situation, that they hire coaches. It's like, oh, this would be a good time for me to hire a coach to help me to make sure that I'm really on point, because I want to get this job.
Hmm.
But it ended up being so much more than that. Um, so, I mean, definitely, I had the support all along the way, from things, like my CV, from, sort of my CV to,
Yep.
discussions about interview techniques, all of that happened. And that was extra. And my, letter of interest, there was, really, really extraordinarily helpful, sort of concrete things that came out of coaching.
Yeah.
Um, I had not expected, um, uh, but am immensely grateful, for the emotional support, and, sort of, sort of reminders for mindfulness, um, that I've also been the beneficiary of. And I honestly, that's not exactly what I was looking for, but I would say that that's been, probably, eh, one of the most meaningful parts of the experience. I would say that, and also meeting other colleagues who, um, really, it's very interesting to me. It's always very interesting in group to hear how similar, our worries are, or our situations across, sort of many, many different specialties, across America, um, and, so many different people being in this situation where their workflows are just being sped up and sped up and sped up, to the point where it's not humane for them, and it's not humane for patients. And that was, um, helpful. And I don't mean it in a misery loves company way, but it is somewhat validating to hear that, oh, wait, this is not just my issue. Here are these other people who are working really hard and, sort of trying to do right by their patients, and they're in the same situation. It's not something that I did, that I misjudged this, or I did something wrong in some way, that this is the situation that I find myself in. And it's actually really nice to, sort of people talk in group about what things have worked for them, what things have not worked for them, the struggles that they're having at the moment, and the things that they've been able to overcome.
Yeah.
And it's a really, really meaningful experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And Luanda's sharing with us the group coaching aspect, and you also had the one-on-one coaching with my mom. And I think rewinding a little bit, and we don't have to name the physician, but I think you saw a familiar, if I remember correctly, you saw a familiar face on the testimonial page, and you were like, okay, maybe this is worth checking out, someone from residency, or is that right?
Yeah, so when I was looking, um, first of all, I didn't know where to go to look, other than Dr. Google, which is what we all do for a lot of things.
Right.
So I looked for, I think I looked first for executive coaching, and then but I really wanted someone who understood physician life. And there are a few options out there, but MD Can Help stood out because um, the quality of the testimonials was different, in terms of the ways that folks describe um, what they had gotten out of the experience. That was different to me. And also, I did see someone that I knew from medical school,
Mm.
um, that I know pretty well, and who at the last um, time that I had known that person, or had an opportunity to interact, had a really great job, had a really, really great job in Boston. And the person was talking about how they had, basically, as part of their coaching experience, they had moved from that, what I consider a really great job in Boston, to this amazing job in Pennsylvania. It's like, well, that is exactly what I want. Give me some of that. Sign me up for that. That's
Yeah,
great.
absolutely. Um, well, I'm very touched to hear that we, were able to serve you well in this transitional period, that you got what you wanted and you got more out of it. What does life look like today now that you've gotten the support? What's different, with Luanda today compared to that picture of devastation and burnout that you painted, I guess only 4 months ago?
Well, there there are a lot of things that are different. One of the things, sort of, that I um have worked with Dr. Gale on, is kind of making sure that what I actually want is a part of the transaction, as opposed to um, the thing that I think I'm supposed to want, which is, something that a lot of physicians have, sort of from an early age been the good kid who was good at pleasing adults. And then as we move into adulthood, we become good at pleasing our teachers and professors. And then as we
Yeah.
move to our careers, sort of our chiefs and chairs and other authority figures. And that's of course, a huge generalization, but that is a part of our ethos, is that we want to please, and many of us also want to serve.
Hmm.
Um, and I honestly think that the current healthcare system has found a way to exploit
Mhm.
um, that common ethos that's been around for millennia to the detriment of both physicians, healers, clinicians, and patients. I do very much think that that is not an intractable nor a permanent scenario, but I do very much think that we have to um, present an equal and opposing force to not have it um, translated into a more terrible end. And I think part of that equal and opposing force is for individual physicians to stand up for themselves and what makes sense for themselves and not always um, sort of feel the need to be martyred just
Right.
to do their job.
Right. And so for you, it sounds like you're in a place where you're advocating for your own needs more. And do you have a specific example there or a scenario where you maybe in the past would have just let things go or would have let, the system have its way, but now you're more doing what's best for you?
Well, yeah, I have a recent example. So I am, as you noted, I'm in transition, and I am um, have accepted a role somewhere else. I resigned from my other role, and in between, while I'm waiting for my credentialing to take place, I'm doing locum tenens, and I was doing locum tenens in a place that was in the path of the recent hurricane, and so I was meant to be there for a week, and when I got there on Monday, um, they were sort of saying, "Oh, well, we figured out that like the news reports are saying that it's going to come through on Wednesday, so we're gonna, be closed on Wednesday and Thursday. And since you're not, since we don't know if we're gonna have power for Friday, um, you should probably just go, go home. But you know, why don't you just work tomorrow?" And like, well, okay. I'm like, okay, something doesn't sound right about that. And then there's a lot of stuff ensued after that involving my little dog who also wasn't happy to be in the path of the hurricane. Um, it's like, you know what? If you guys are closing up because you're worried that this is going to happen and you're going to lose lives, it's that bad that I just need to go home. And like, no, I'll be here until Wednesday. Like, yeah, but tomorrow's Tuesday and I need to be home on Wednesday and I'm driving. And, sort of a past me probably would have tried to like compromise and say, well, well, why don't I see patients up until this time and then I'll leave? Da, 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 da. And all those thoughts were going on in my head.
Right.
But then it's like, wait a minute. They've already canceled 3 days because they're worried about the safety of patients and themselves.
And
But
we
they,
all, yeah, we all know that feeling, whether there's a hurricane, whether it's being asked to see an extra patient when your kid has a recital, when it's whatever it is, we all know that voice that we feel like we should say no, but we feel obligated to the system.
yes.
It sounds like you are now in a place where you are comfortable, navigating those thoughts and actually moving forward with what's best for you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was interesting because again, I could see it from a distance and I could see it up close as well. So like I could observe myself, but then I was also in it, and it's like, Well, why is he even insisting on this? This is not like, you have people that are scheduled to have emergency surgery tomorrow, and I'm the only person that can do it. And that's why you need to be here, me to be here at potential peril to myself going home. No, these are just like clinic visits for folks that are just trying to establish care. And you can't reschedule these like you rescheduled the ones for the other 3 days.
Right, right. Um, I mean, that's a perfect example of setting a boundary and of not falling into that pattern of people pleasing and martyrdom and all the themes you mentioned. For a physician watching this who's thinking about coaching, who's kind of on the fence, they're not sure about taking the next step, what would you say? Because I think for a lot of people in that state of burnout that you talked about at the beginning, their first and final thought is, how the heck is a coach going to help? What's a coach actually going to do to get me out of that? And so for people that are a little bit unsure about physician coaching and working with MD can help, what would you say to them?
Well, I would say that definitely MD can help, um, because at a certain point, it's very difficult to really get a handle, um, an objective handle on what's going on. Um, you know, um, One, because at least in my case, and it seems like this is the case for a lot of folks, it's hard to even carve out the time to think about this. And you're just sort of like living in your monkey mind world where everything is attracting your attention. Oh, I've got to get groceries. Oh, I have to finish those notes. Oh, we, sort of have to do this 5 hour training, blah, blah, blah. That all these things are going on, and it's hard to just set aside the time. So coaching helped in that way. Coaching helped in the sense that um, I could, I had someone who could ask me, sort of difficult questions that, sort of maybe I hadn't thought about what's really important to me and what's not. What can I live with? What do I want to live with? Um, what are the things that are okay to accept, and sort of where do I draw the line? Um, it was helpful to recognize some of the triggers and where those triggers come from, and why they're so potent. Um, so I honestly, I would describe coaching the same way that I describe having an aortic valve replacement to patients. Um, it's like you're going along, and you're doing what you do, and maybe you have some sense that it's not working, but you're still managing, you're doing what you do. It's really not until you have the valve replacement that you will realize um, how much you've been shrinking yourself and shrinking your activities. And once you do it, then you're going to wonder, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this a year ago when they were first recommending it? Because you feel so much better. You feel so much better, um, because you just won't realize how many ways, whatever the situation has impacted your life until, um, at least in my situation, until you have someone to kind of help you um, move through it in a deliberate way.
Wow. Yep. Um, Luanda, that was very powerful and always a pleasure to hear from you and your use of the English language as usual. Very articulate. So really appreciate the time and appreciate you sharing the story for other doctors.
Oh, my pleasure, Debbie. Always a pleasure to talk to you.